What's up, Christ-centered mental health community? This is me, David Lee Chu Sarche. I represent Christ-centered mental health, a ministry where I talk about mental health awareness from a Christian perspective in order to give you real hope in Jesus' name to glory God the Father. All right, before we get started on this interview, I have a quick announcement for those of you that are new to the channel. Please check out the Christ-centered mental health ministry website. It's www.christcenteredmentalhealth.net. There you can see our statement of faith. You can check out the On Faith and Mental Health blog. You can check out the Christ Center Mental Health Ministry store. You can find out how to contact me or someone on the team for 24-hour peer support. And you can find out how to support the ministry via Patreon, Venmo, or Cash App. All right, as you can tell, this interview is called How to Manage Schizoaffective Disorder. My guest today is Jane. How you doing today, Jane?
I'm doing pretty well, David. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm kind of tired.
Same here.
Yeah. Before we get started, can you explain exactly what is schizoaffective disorder?
Okay, schizoaffective disorder is a combination of schizophrenia symptoms, which pretty much are, hallucinations and delusions. Um, and then it's combined with the mood disorder, bipolar disorder, which is characterized by shifts in mood, mania, hypomania, and major depression. So
Can you explain what mania and hypomania is?
yeah, the mania, it's more extreme, and it lasts longer. Mania is something that will take you out of service a little bit. um, it messes with your sleep. You could go without sleep for several days. You are very you can be very impulsive, a little bit reckless with your decision makings and behaviors. Of course, if you're not medicated and in counseling, and then it really affects people's lives in relationships, because there is a marked instability in that person's life during that time period, and it just needs a lot of support and people who know how to communicate with that person suffering that symptomology at the time. Did you ask about hypomania as well?
Yeah,
That's
it's about
that's
yeah,
that's like the second cousin, I guess, of mania.
yeah,
It's not going to be as extreme. It's not going to last as long. It's a lot more controllable and observable in the patient. It's
yeah,
you have more insight when you're hypomanic. You just kind of go up a little bit. You notice your behaviors, your
yeah,
mood is elated. You can become grandiose, and your delusions will be more grandiose and kind of feeling on top of the world.
yeah.
It's a rush. It's just like a chemical rush in
Yeah.
your day.
Well, would you say mania? Would you say that hypomania? Well, I like what you said about how with hypomania you have more insight into yourself, because I know usually when I go hypomanic, I know that I'm hypomanic, but
Yeah.
I don't always know when I'm actually experiencing mania.
No, mania feels like a delusion all in its own.
Yeah,
It feels like just kind of out of control. That only really medication can ameliorate that state,
yeah,
and it can get dangerous for some people.
yeah.
You know,
I actually agree with you that like medication is good for that. Like I think there's some Christians out there who think that all you need to do is pray about it, it'll go away. And it's like
this is
no,
danger zone. This is
exactly.
potential suicide. This is
Yeah,
potential reckless driving,
exactly.
impulsive sexual behavior. This is not something to mess with and say,
Exactly.
take your medications. It's simple. No, this is dangerous. This is
That's why I try and
yeah.
tell people that
This
going
you
off
need
your medic.
hospitalization,
Yeah,
professional care. It's not. Yeah,
exactly. That's why I try and tell people about this is a life and death situation because
it
like
really is. It lands
we
people in
don't.
prison. It lands
Yeah,
people homeless. It's the church. Yeah, any if you hear any church, digressing into that, like when you're suffering from mania, your medication, they just they're clueless. It's
yeah,
it's
yeah,
really disheartening because I just feel like a whole effort, like some kind of a medical effort needs to sweep through especially the evangelical churches where
mhm,
pastors are trained to not say don't take medication.
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of churches that aren't so bad, but then
Yeah.
there's still a lot of churches that are very bad, and it's kind of
Most churches won't even do lip service to mental illness.
yeah,
They'll just stay away from it because of the implications, I guess, legally or whatever. But
yeah, that's true.
yeah.
So how long have you had been dealing with this illness?
Oh, okay. I have notes, so I'm gonna be like referencing notes over here.
Okay.
It's sorry if I'm like
Oh,
reading
it's
notes.
okay.
Okay. Okay, so I've really experienced symptoms of delusion, paranoia since elementary school.
Oh wow.
It's really, yeah. I had some of my first major psychotic periods during elementary and middle school,
Mm.
and because I didn't have any basis or knowledge, none of the parents really aren't aware of how to talk to their children about mental illness and the verbiage
Yeah,
involved. But I was psychotic. I did have periods of very long periods of psychosis in elementary school, middle school, and then high school, college, and then to present day. So I've been dealing with it for my entire life. It's
wow.
it's devastated my life, my entire life. The symptom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can relate to you on that because my mental illness didn't manifest itself until high school.
Okay.
Like, like, when you were first diagnosed? Were you
Mhm.
diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder right away, or did they misdiagnose you first?
Yeah, I was diagnosed bipolar disorder, because I didn't have the words to say I'm having psych. To me, when I just felt I thought it was called anxiety, even though I had gone through college courses and did all of.
Yeah,
I still didn't have the concrete. Okay, I'm having a psychotic. I'm in psychosis right now, or I'm in mania,
yeah,
or I'm in hypo. I didn't have that language yet. So, all I could say was I feel really anxious or I feel really depressed and I have panic attacks. Like
yeah,
I didn't really know how to
yeah,
discuss or talk about psychosis.
yeah,
And people don't even realize they're in psychosis or they're breaking from reality when it's happening. So it's
yeah,
kind of hard anyway to get that first diagnosis pinned down because the client is often new to therapy in itself, new to the cognitive behavioral structure, and then things will start to come out. The trained clinician will be able to start sussing it out a bit more, and oh, this
yeah.
this isn't just anxiety. This is full blown psychosis. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I feel
bipolar.
like when it comes to dealing with psychiatrists, like
Yeah.
I get what you mean. Like you're too young to know exactly how to explain your symptoms, and
Mhm.
so they misdiagnosed you. Do you think there needs to be more education on mental health, especially for like young kids?
Yes, definitely. And if there could be some kind of effort, especially with, Robert Kennedy Jr. is doing this Make America Healthy Again effort. I think it would be
Oh,
cool if there was you threw in some Make America, aware of mental illness as well. That's a part
yeah,
of health, not just your biological, not just your like food health and your body health, but your mental health. And if there could
yeah,
be kind of you know some kind of a platform for people to get on in elementary school, I would start in elementary school, in
yeah,
particularly in middle school, to get children aware of what's happening when you're having a psychotic break, what's happening when you are experiencing mania, major
yeah,
depression. These are all things that really they devastate people's lives. They land them in
yeah,
jail, devastate them economically. They land them in
exactly.
poverty cycles and addiction cycles, and this isn't something to play around with anymore. Like
Yeah,
you're right. It really does need to be like a first and foremost educational initiative in
yeah.
elementary and middle school.
You said Robert Kennedy Jr. is trying to push for a health program. Is it like a holistic health program or?
Yeah, his Make America Great. You know how, or Make America Healthy. You know how Trump
Yeah,
has the Make America Great Again. His
yeah.
initiative, and he's joined President Trump's candidate um, party, or he's joined Trump to
Okay.
be like a co-candidate, and he's trying to focus on getting us back to the how President Kennedy had the initiative in gym class where you had to do
Yeah,
the presidential. You remember the
yeah,
presidential fit thing?
yeah.
Like I think he's trying to bring that back, and then re
Okay.
overhaul the FDA and try to get foods less poisonous. You know how Germany and all these countries have standards for what you can, the dyes that you can put in foods, and the certain
Yeah,
inorganic compounds, and um, the hormone disruptive chemicals. He's trying to like get all of that done in America.
oh
I
wow.
think that would go along with mental health as well.
That would go along with mental health. Like it definitely, like I believe in holistic treatments, like not
Yeah,
just mental health, but I actually kind of believe,
vitamins, yeah,
yeah,
supplements,
vitamins, yeah.
yeah.
Um, okay, so what kinds of delusions or hallucinations do you experience?
Okay, well, this topic I actually wanted to um talk about the different categories, because not a lot of people are aware there are different categories. They just hear
Yeah,
psychosis, delusion, and then
yeah,
they lose count. There,
uh,
it's really kind of like broken down, like what chapter of the book you're experiencing that month.
yeah,
It's kind of like I'll go through the list here. There's a lot of good lists. Can you still see me?
yeah. I can
Yeah.
still see you.
Okay. So there's I could just like try to read them real quick and give examples. Persecutory delusion. This is the most common form of delusion, where people are afraid they're being spied on, stalked, poisoned, conspired against, harassed, and this is a common
This was the persecution.
persecutory
Okay,
delusion. Yeah, this is one of the most common ones, and this
okay,
is like for paranoid schizophrenia, this would be the one that is the delusion that is the most most interferes. But there are
yeah,
some other ones that it's almost like living in a different weird Alice in Wonderland type story for like
yeah,
several months at a time. All right. There's delusions of grandeur. In this form of delusion, the person believes they are much greater or more influential than they really are. And I know you've experienced this one, David. I
Yeah,
remember you t-
yeah,
you talking about
yeah,
calling up the president, and and
yeah,
I was there
exactly.
too. Um, let's see, delusions of grandeur. Yeah, I've been there too. Trying to think, did I give an example of one? That I'm being a couple of years ago, I thought I was being groomed by the like alphabet boys, like the
Oh
CIA and
wow.
the FBI, and
Yeah.
monitoring my content to try to get me to like inadvertently work for them. And it was
Oh
just all
wow.
this Alice in Wonderland story out.
Yeah.
It lasts for months, and it's very distracting. I can take care of my home, my boys. It's all rote. I can do all of that, but at the same
Yeah.
time, just be completely disconnected from my social life,
Yeah.
from you know, it's distracting. There's delusions of jealousy, and this is when you're in a relationship or a spousal partnership and you feel constant sense that your spouse is cheating on you. That can really disrupt a marriage or a relationship. There's erotomanic or delusional love, which I experience quite a bit. Since high school, I've experienced this. It's a form of
Yeah.
delusion. The patient is often firmly convinced that the person he or she is fixated upon is in love with them. So, like, take
Yeah.
any kind of actor, musician, even people in your community, like I don't know, like your mayor or, you know,
That actually really resonates with me because I've dealt with that one quite a few times in my life.
it can be embarrassing too
Yeah.
because you can get to the point where you're sending them messages and because
Yeah.
you think, but the thing is because you think it's what is it called? It's a reciprocated relationship, but
Yeah.
it's in
It's just
stealth
one
mode.
sided.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
think it's reciprocated because you're constantly getting subliminal or nonverbal cues from this
Yeah.
person that's confirming your delusion. So it's not. It's like God bless our hearts,
Yeah.
Like anyone who deals with that one and has sent someone a weird email or whatever is just like it's really
Yeah.
embarrassing
I,
to move through.
I remember I had a experience like that, like back when I was in college. I was
Yeah,
talking to this one girl, and I thought she liked me too. Like it got really bad. I
right.
pretty much stalked her.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
That's what it can escalate into.
yeah,
And they claim that there are cases where they claim that it can be dangerous and the person,
yeah,
that's very rare. It's always, they always
yeah,
want mental illness to escalate into this like big scene and like violence, but
yeah,
it's very rare that that happens.
yeah,
It's usually we just withdraw from, we realize that there's a potential that there's the delusion is misrepresented. It's not real,
yeah,
and then there's a withdrawal from it, just complete withdrawal.
yeah,
There are somatic delusion disorder, and then the person's convinced that something is wrong with them physically. And this type of delusion might lead you to, and I've had this experience as well, just last year, where I thought that I was convinced I had cancer. So I was going to the doctor and I was trying to get all the tests done and didn't have
yeah.
cancer, nothing on the CT scans. It's just when you get delusional, it's
Wait,
you can't
what's this delusion called?
somatic delusion where you
Oh, right.
believe
Okay.
there's something physically wrong with you. And then some individuals may also develop tactile hallucinations where
Uh,
they literally feel the symptoms of the somatic delusion that
Is
is being
that
present.
kind of like when you experience like the sensation of bugs crawling on you?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually mentioned here. You feel the sensation of insects or parasites crawling over your skin. This is a hard one too for trauma victims and rape
Yeah.
victims. sometimes they'll experience, and I have experienced this myself, a sexual somatic um,
Yeah.
where you feel like, it feels like there's a sexual experience going on, and it's not
Yeah.
a fantasy. You're not trying to think about someone. It's just you, or your body feels like it's being taken advantage of. So that's
Oh, wow.
also, that's sad. People rape and molest
Yeah.
victims and trauma
So
victims.
would you say that's more common with people who experience rape?
Yeah, I would. I've just read about it, David.
Uh,
I, you know, I'm, I think you're right. I think any traumas to our body, like anyone who suffered through any kind of medical issues, which I have, I was
yeah.
devastated with medical issues throughout
Yeah.
my formative years, my puberty and adolescence.
Yeah.
I think that if you have experienced anything that you couldn't control that happened to your body, this is probably one of your number one delusions, probably
Yeah.
persecutory as well. There's a
Okay.
rhyme and reason to the delusions that we suffer.
Yeah.
Can't control them. We can't disengage from the misreality of it, but
Yeah.
there's always a grain of truth to why it's happening, and you have to look at the whole patient's story in order to kind of
Yeah.
empathize with it when that they're in that state. It's yeah.
Do you think when it comes to these delusions, do you think they're a result of, say, something you heard earlier in the day, and all of a sudden, like later on, you're triggered and you have a delusion about whatever you heard early on in the day? I don't know if I'm wording that correctly, but
I don't know. That's a good question too. It's very referential. Yeah, I don't. I'm trying. Yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about too. He's like,
yeah,
how do these references get inside of us to begin with, and how
yeah,
does it get so out of control that it lasts for months, and we can't
yeah,
disengage from it. Um, like what triggers it? Yeah, exactly. Could it be
yeah,
something we saw? Yeah, something we saw on a movie, or yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know,
yeah.
the
Yeah,
news
I'm not
or
sure either. I mean, the reason why I ask is because, like, probably like last week, I had like a hypomanic episode where I was telling my wife that I was a reincarnation of Michael Jackson,
okay.
and like my wife told me that earlier in the day she was talking to me about Michael Jackson. Like, so I was just wondering, do you think, like, I thought it was an interesting thought, like maybe delusions are triggered by something that previously happened, and then later on your mind is referring back to that.
Yeah, there's some kind of cycle there.
Yeah,
There is definitely like a feedback loop. It would
yeah,
seem, because like my childhood delusions were very much like that. Like I would see
yeah,
something on TV and it would get inside of me and terrify me, but then it would last for like 6, 7 months, and it would reoccur, you know, every other year, every year. It was, yeah, to where, yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying. It's hard to put into words though.
yeah. It definitely is interesting.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so how can
There's a
you tell
couple
the
more
what?
there's a few more I wanted to get
Oh,
through.
okay.
But bizarre delusion it's very common, refers to delusions that are impossible or bizarre, such as alien invasion. Like
Hmm.
I would have these in college. I actually dropped out of college a couple the 2 3 times I tried to finish college. I was having,
Okay.
bizarre delusions. One of them was my college professor, my English teacher. I thought he was like a warlock, and he was
Oh
translating.
wow.
He was like telepathically communicating with me messages about the Holocaust,
Oh
and
wow.
I almost followed. Like, I remember he was drawing a diagram, like something to do with the English language, and a diagram on the board, and I
Yeah.
thought he was drawing grave plots. for me to go to a specific grave in Buffalo, New York, and find this specific plot. And I thought he was telepathically communicating with me to follow him home one night, and
Yeah.
that was kind of a moment of insight when I got into my car that evening, and it was like I'm there's something I'm not following this person home. Like you have
Yeah.
insight and clarity, but that's an example of a bizarre delusion, is because teachers aren't they're not going to be
Yeah.
randomly a warlock.
Yeah.
They're not
Exactly.
going to be telling you through, thought broadcasts that to follow them home and go to a graveyard,
That actually reminds me of. Are you familiar with who John Nash is?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I read okay, so there's the movie A Beautiful Mind, but I read the book called by the
Okay.
same title, and
Okay.
it was I feel like the book was more accurate to his life, but
Okay.
what the woman was talking about that when he would slip into his psychosis, he would get these delusions telling him that aliens are sending him messages through the magazine articles, and he would have to decipher the code of the magazine
Yeah.
articles so he would know what the aliens are saying.
That's a perfect example of the bizarre delusion.
Yeah,
Yeah. In that, it does devastate your
yeah,
career and your lifestyle, because like there's nothing but medication and therapy that can alter that state of mind. It's just like you're on a mission there. And yeah,
yeah,
I remember watching the movie and really syncing up with that, just really being able to, look back on delusions that I've had and really
yeah.
relate to that. There's non-bizarre delusion, which is something that could happen, but um,
You said
like
non-bizarre
bizarre,
delusion.
like the fear
Okay.
of being followed, like someone
Oh,
follow.
okay.
And then there's one that I experience like every day. This is just every day, every time I turn on the news, every time it's called where was it? Delusion of reference. And believing that others are communicating with you, believing that you are being referred to in the media, believing that objects or situations that are arranged have certain messages. They're trying to convey
Yeah,
messages to you, believing that animals are communicating complex messages, believing that others are surreptitiously or secretly observing you. And it's like
hmm,
my TVs are there's constantly someone watching me in the TV.
yeah,
I've just gotten used to it. You know, I just kind of, I always feel like I'm being, monitored. And then
yeah.
believing messages in a movie or a song are meant
Would
for you.
would this delusion fall under that? Like, so, like I know like I experience this on a constant basis where I'll think to like, okay, so my favorite teams like for football and basketball is the Broncos and the Nuggets, and like whenever they're playing, I I something tells me I have to watch the game because if I don't
Yes.
watch the game, my teams are gonna lose. And so
Yeah.
like there's been times where I'll force myself to watch a game, and like if they won, then I will confirm in my head that what I believe is true.
Is it because
So
you watch it, they win?
yeah,
So yeah, like that's a bit of grandiosity too. Like if
yeah,
you're watching it, they won't win, and if you are watching it, they will win. Like
yeah,
is it like that too?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if my team lost,
Okay.
it wouldn't register with me. I would just go, oh well, that was just luck. But
Yeah.
like if they won while I was watching, it would confirm it in my head that they won because I was watching.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm talked to all the time by celebrities, by like Elon Musk
Yeah.
and certain like musicians and rock stars and podcasters. They are always talking directly to me, and
Oh,
it's so like
is
it's
it kind of
exhausting.
surreal?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then um yeah, so those are the categories. And then trying to like piece together over the years, like, um, I don't know. I don't know how much time you wanted to spend talking about it, but t- I can share more about what specific delusions I've had and how they fit in those separate categories. Or did
Yeah,
you want to?
you can explain that. Like we have time.
All right. Um, so a bizarre delusion. I'm not sure if this is bizarre. Yeah, this would be bizarre. When I was about 14, 15 years old, I had a bizarre delusion where when I was going through puberty, I thought instead of like going through like becoming, like a young woman, instead like my back was twisting and I was becoming
Oh
like a
wow.
monster. And like, yeah, I really struggled with that. I woke up like terrified instead of like excited, for middle school and friendships and like typical stuff. Like
Yeah.
I literally thought that I like any morning I woke up, like I would be like this twisted, hunched over person, and
Oh wow.
just really weird. Like the way that like my mind was, compartmentalizing puberty for some reason. It just became like a horror movie instead. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Um, I was experiencing family violence too at the time, where
Yeah.
there was issues in my home where I was being roughed up pretty bad. We would
Oh
get
man.
broken, and I would be, pretty severely hit, thrown to the floor,
Oh man.
smashed against the wall. So I think maybe the stress of family violence also plays
Yeah.
into any kind of domestic abuse will play into your delusional episodes, how long they last, and how graphic they are.
I've always heard that stress can trigger your delusions. So
Oh yeah, that's the number one thing that triggers
yeah,
mine. If I'm
yeah,
doing something and I'm just socially like overwhelmed,
yeah,
I'm gonna be delusional. Yeah, I'm gonna be facing
yeah.
some kind of delusion. I
I
used to
think.
think that.
What were you gonna say?
No, you go first. What were you gonna say?
I forgot. Never mind. I just lost it.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
Yeah,
I used to think that black and white. This is a couple years before puberty. I used to think
yeah,
that black and white TV was scary. Like I was terrified anytime some kind of black and white TV show would come on. Like I would
yeah.
move with like terror and on the verge of a panic attack because I thought it was like a different dimension.
I could totally relate to you on
Yeah,
that because
it was just
I
real.
remember when I was younger, I used to be terrified of the Teletubbies.
Okay. Why do you okay, yeah, that's they're kind of uncanny, like,
Yeah, yeah,
their body shapes and their speech, they don't really
yeah,
talk at all, they kinda yeah, that is almost like watching a psychotic episode because
yeah,
they don't
yeah.
they the whole thing is psychotic.
Yeah, like the whole thing was just creepy. I was like, I remember being as young as like 5 years old, and like I just got done watching Barney, and all of a sudden Teletubbies would come on, and I'd run
Yeah.
out of the room.
Yeah. Yeah, you were a sensitive kid too. I can
Yeah,
imagine. Like this, something in that triggered you where you didn't understand what they were saying and the frequency of their voices, and yeah, that was just
yeah,
weird. And then like the shapes and the flashing lights.
yeah, exactly. The baby in the sun or whatever.
Um yeah, so yeah, I also I had really bad sleep problems. I thought that there was a dead body in my basement. Would be a
Oh
bizarre
wow.
delusion. A dead body that would animate and come up the stairs at night and stand in my doorway. And if I closed my eyes, I could see it. Like, it would transmit an image of it. But if I kept my
Oh,
eyes open, I wouldn't be bothered by the images of it. So there was
oh,
like a lack of sleep. There was like a lack of sleep through. through certain portions of my early academics, and it affected. It didn't really
Yeah,
affect my English language development or arts or anything like that, but the math skills and like the hard
yeah,
sciences, I never got there just because of suffering from delusion, having to
yeah,
worry about, yeah, my hygiene was terrible because of it, lack of sleep, and then I didn't really bathe all the time. I was
yeah,
made fun of, like my hair is real greasy, and I
yeah,
I wasn't a part of the popular clique, and it was kind of like, it was just sad that
yeah,
that if I had someone to talk to about it, I might have done better socially, and with my hygiene and sleep,
yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember when I was younger. I was kind when I was, well when I was in high school. That, like I said, that was when my mental illness really manifested, and I was
okay,
seeing like the kids in my high school.
yeah,
They would outcast me.
yeah,
I didn't really have any friends in high school, and like I think the
yeah.
kids in high school were afraid of me.
Okay. That was when you were having the spider. You were seeing the spider in the hallway.
No, the giant fly with a human
Oh, the
face.
fly. That's right.
Yeah,
Did you talk about it to anyone? Did you tell anyone?
yeah, I told people.
Like
Yeah.
your peers?
Yeah, I told that to mental health professionals too.
But
Mm.
you did tell your the peers at school about it?
Oh no, I didn't tell them about it.
Okay.
'Cause I didn't even know what was going on at the time. Like, cause
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about schizophrenia or anything like that. So I was kind of thinking, I don't know. Like I was
I
confused.
never told anyone about mine either. That's so weird. I don't it's like a sick secret that we keep,
Yeah,
because we're so confused by it. Like, it's a
yeah,
break in reality. It's traumatizing.
exactly. It is a
You're
break
sitting
in
here like
reality.
having this.
And then when you're that young, you don't really know what's going on.
It's almost like being abused and keeping the
Yeah,
secret of it. It's like traumatic, and you don't know how to describe the abuse, so you just
yeah,
don't talk about it.
exactly. So, how can you tell the difference between fantasy and reality?
Um, Fantasy. How can I tell the difference? You really can't when you're in a delusional state.
Yeah,
I'll look back on delusions, and I'll question them. I'll still question them. Like, even like, it's just looking back on delusions, you question them, and like,
yeah,
there's no definite. There's like, you don't really have a definitive consciousness of like reality. It's
yeah,
it's like, um there, that there's a possibility that it may not be real, but it, like,
yeah,
overwhelmingly, like, all of your body systems, like the chemical impulses and behaviors, and they all reinforce the fact that your
yeah,
delusion is real, so you can't really break away from it in the time.
yeah,
There, you don't see the missed reality because your body systems are telling you that it's real. You
yeah.
can't. That being said, my the Bible and my faith in God plays a huge part in
Amen.
being able to step out to and up out of this, like, because God is, he's outside of our dimension of reality. This is a good thing because we
Yeah,
can step out of, like, the cesspool of, like, things being corrupt, our bodies being corrupted, and we can step out of that for a moment and say, despite all this, God is real and He's going to take care of me. And I can read the Bible and ground in the fact that
amen.
there's a different dimension going on that's very good. Like, it's a
Yeah,
good dimension, and like, it's real. Like, it's unequivocally real to me. I don't
mm,
question. I've never questioned God's reality. I've never been an
yeah.
atheist. That
I'm,
really, as
I'm
far
glad
as the,
you. Oh,
yeah,
I'm glad you said that because, I'm always telling people the way I can tell reality from fantasy is whatever contradicts God's word is not
Yes,
real.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's really grounding because you have that extra resource.
yeah.
I don't know how people survive mental illness without the
Without the
Bible as a
Bible,
resource,
yeah,
a
exactly.
belief in God to take you out of this headspace and go, wait a second, there's a there's a higher purpose and power that's looking
Yeah.
over me, and I can go in and out
Would
of
you
that.
say, because earlier you said it's kind of difficult for someone to know they're delusional, would you say that in those times when someone's delusional, it's good for them to listen to like people around them who see they're being delusional?
um that's a tough question because sometimes if you do talk about it, people can be condescending,
Yeah, that's true.
and it can really hurt your feelings and make you more withdrawn if you talk about
Yeah,
your delusions with someone who's not trained to talk
yeah,
about them with you. It's like describing trauma that's happening to you, and it's very real, and then having
yeah.
someone dismiss the trauma and say, well, I just don't believe in your delusions. Like, I had a counselor who said that to me, and it
Really?
broke my heart in a moment because all systems are go when you're
Yeah,
delusional. You think that it's real, you're in a state of trauma, and for someone
yeah.
to neglect you and say, I'm not going to work through this with you, I don't believe you, you're
That's
crazy,
heartbreaking.
it
This was
is.
a therapist that told you that?
Yeah, it was my last therapist. I
Oh
canned her.
man.
I
Oh
was like,
man.
no, I'm very respectful to all my therapists. She was good in a sense for a time, but after she said that, it was like I can't I can't even have a healthy, there's no healthy boundaries or relationship here that to move forward in. You never tell someone who's delusional because they're in a state of trauma. It's like telling a kid
Yeah,
who's being molested or a woman who's suffering from domestic violence that it's not real. It's
yeah,
it's like that important to work with your client through, you know,
yeah,
theme of the delusion. What's
yeah,
the theme? Just try they're living in some kind of story for the moment, like
yeah,
a short story. What's the theme of what you're going through? Can you relate that to me? And we could talk about the theme and just ground in the theme, and then maybe try to move on. Like,
yeah,
what's the
that's,
theme of being poisoned? Well, that I don't feel like I'm in control, and
yeah,
things outside of my control that I can't, I'm not able to work through, and
yeah,
I don't feel like anyone around me is, there's neglect to that theme as well, or um, yeah, you see what I'm saying though?
I see what
You're
you're
like
saying. Yeah, I think more
theme.
therapists need to ask questions like that.
What was the theme in you thinking you were Michael Jackson all of a sudden? What
The
did it make you
theme.
feel like? I
That's a
mean,
good question.
like, treat
um,
it like it's a short story all of a sudden, maybe.
yeah, I know. I have to think more on that because I don't know what the theme would have been. I know earlier in the day my wife was talking about Michael Jackson, and
And
then
what were
like
the dynamics between you two at the time when you're having that delusion? Like, how were you guys doing with your relationship? Were you feeling like,
I think we were laughing about it.
okay,
I
but
don't
what built up to it? Were you just kind of,
I don't remember to be honest.
yeah, see what I'm saying though? It's like
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
we need to start getting real with our delusions, even
yeah.
ourselves, with our
I never really thought about it like that about there being a theme to your
yeah,
delusion. I have to
yeah.
think more on that because it's
I've
like
never thought of it too. This is organic. This is you and me,
yeah,
David, like hive
yeah,
minding, think
yeah,
tanking.
yeah,
Yeah, this is great.
yeah. Oh. So, what
Okay.
are things that you like to do to help you deal with your mental illness symptoms?
Well, definitely. Um, let's see. What question was it? What are things like to cope with symptoms? I do the Bible in a year plan. Like
Oh, nice.
I read through the Bible in a year, so it's like 20 minutes a day.
Oh,
I
wow.
know I'm going to be sitting in front of something and grounding myself. You
Yeah.
know, so 20 minutes a day I read the Bible. I
Oh,
have been going on long walks, really for the vitamin D from the sun.
yeah.
I also heard on this like short on Instagram that don't wear sunglasses when you take your walk because the pineal gland that's like right in the center of your brain, the direct sunlight to your eye lenses, when it receives the direct sunlight, it stimulates that pineal gland, and
Oh,
that is
really?
it produces dopamine and serotonin and like adrenaline, like all these like
Oh, wow.
chemicals that we need to maintain mood, to
Yeah.
stabilize our mood. And I really have been feeling a lot better going on these walks and without sunglasses because they trick your body to think that you're in a state of like twilight, and you the direct right in your eye lenses. I learned
Yeah.
that. Have you ever heard of like the Andrew Huberman lab? Andrew
No.
Huberman. He's a pretty good
What's
like
that?
he's a he is a I think he's a physician, but he does more research. He's a research physician. He's got a really good podcast I think you would like.
Okay.
Oh,
Andrew
but
what?
Andrew Huberman.
Andrew Huberman. I'll look him up.
Yeah, and then Bible through the year. I'm still and then yeah, like uh what my handwriting when oh, so yeah, like I was saying, that walk every day and then the Bible reading when I'm not well, like lately I've been hypomanic, just
Yeah.
sticking with two traditions every day in my life. When I'm not well, I'm set up for success because I have these two traditions that I keep every day
Yeah.
that I just do,
So it's
So
kind of like a routine that you do.
or being not well. Yeah. And in the sense,
Yeah.
like it keeps you healthy generally, but when you're not well and you have like these traditions that you do, it can really, really help ground you and keep you stable. So
Yeah.
those two things. So,
That's good. Like I know I gotta read the Bible more. But I have
it's
noticed that when I do read the Bible, it does keep me grounded.
yeah, it's hard because it's not. I don't know. Yeah, you just
I
have to do it and keep with it. So,
exactly. I tried the Bible in a year things, but I don't know. For me, like sticking to a schedule, to, like say, oh, I have to read this chapter right
yeah.
now. Like that causes me to stress out even more though. Like so, I just read the
Okay.
Bible like periodically whenever I want to because I don't like to be held to a strict schedule because that
I
just
hear you.
stresses me out.
Yeah, everyone's unique. That's true. That's just
Yeah,
kind of something that I do, but you
yeah,
know, Bible reading, for you could be more whimsical and there's
yeah.
actually audio too if
Oh,
you
yeah,
like you want to do like a book of the Bible and just do it
yeah,
throughout the month, you could do an
yeah,
audio.
exactly. Yeah. Oh, what role does your faith in Christ play in mental health wellness?
What question was that?
Uh,
Let's see. Um,
what role does your faith in Christ play in your mental health wellness?
oh, here we go. That there's yeah, like I was talking about, there's like a platform above it all, like this
Yeah,
third dimension, even like the dimension of the internet, and like
yeah,
there's like yeah, there's this like a platform above it all where I can like um where I can climb up to, and then in my mind I can be centered, and it's I have a foundation in my faith in Jesus Christ, so
Yeah.
there's a figurehead on that platform that's
Amen.
me, and then even the saints lately, like the Matthew, Mark, Luke, all those
Yeah.
Peter, they're also there on that platform as a higher sense of reality, and I
Amen.
like shelter myself. Um, I do practice this lately. Like I literally try to picture myself tucked under God's arm or His wing. Like there's a
Oh,
lot of
wow.
references in the Bible that reference being tucked under God's wing and
Yeah.
tucked under the shadow of His wing, and then making Him your refuge. And then I
Yeah.
kind of like a visualization that I try to do when I'm entering into like crisis, like paranoia crisis.
Yeah.
I really try to take pause and think of Bible verses that describe being under the shelter of God's wing, and that does
Mm.
make it makes a huge difference. I mean, I'm
That's
still
actually that's
experiencing,
actually an excellent image to hold to.
yeah. It
Mm.
You'll see. I mean, your symptoms aren't going to automatically stop, but you're
Yeah.
gonna feel comfort through them.
Actually, that image you mentioned
Yeah.
reminds me of that poem, Footprints in the Sand.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good one. That really
Yeah.
when yeah. I can't you we used to see that all through the 90s, like on
Yeah.
everyone had like the tapestry on their wall. Like
Yeah. Exactly.
all the churches had the poster. What was the
Yeah.
last quote of it? When I saw one footprint, that I knew he was carrying me, or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so when I saw one footprint, I asked, it was like I asked Christ, what happened? Where'd you leave me? Or why'd you leave me? And Jesus said, during those times was when I carried you.
Yeah, that's so precious. That image.
Yeah,
Jesus doesn't care what 3D reality of
yeah,
things is or isn't, because his reality reigns above the confusion. Like in our
exactly.
reality, there's propensity for confusion and chaos, but
Yeah,
he doesn't he there's a different reality above all that if you can tap into and that's through the Bible, and that's through going to other resources. Like churches have prayer groups, they have sermons, different sermons you can listen to, different books. There's
yeah,
infinite an amount of resources to find Jesus Christ and to
amen.
find faith in God. Like it's you don't have an excuse really. It's all
Yeah,
over. It's everywhere.
exactly.
So like, if I didn't have the resource, I'm telling you, of the Bible, I just forget it. Forget my mental health. Like,
Yeah.
I would have
That
forgotten
actually,
a long
what
time.
you just said there leads me to my next question about how important is faith to mental health stability?
It's the most important part of
Yeah,
my recovery process.
yeah,
Literally the most important part, day in and day out. My faith in God,
yeah,
what Jesus did for me on the cross is always
amen,
there. I try my hardest, but his sacrifice on the cross is my esteem, and that's where I find myself complete. Anyway,
amen.
regardless of any diagnosis or anything, that's
Yeah,
my he completes me.
yeah, yeah.
That that sacrifice.
It's kind of like what I say all the time. My mental illness doesn't define me. It's my faith in Christ that defines me.
Amen.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember earlier you were talking about I don't know how somebody with mental illness could live without faith in Christ.
yeah,
I agree because when you don't have faith in Christ, like what do you have to have faith in something, like
yeah.
everything else besides Christ is going to be destruction.
Oh yeah. There's no like, you could have a false sense of stability, you know.
Yeah,
Ultimately, you're just kind of like one day at a time. Yeah, I do feel sorry for people when you go to the forums like Schizophrenia Unfiltered or
Yeah,
schizophrenia support groups, when you come across people who have no faith at all and
yeah,
they're angry towards people with faith,
exactly.
it's like, I don't know how you're doing this, brother or sister. I
Yeah,
like, have no
I'm
idea.
actually I'm in a group on Facebook called Schizophrenia and Faith. Now I
Okay.
think that group is actually better than the
Is that
secular
on
one.
Facebook?
Yeah, it's on Facebook. It's called Schizophrenia and Faith.
I'll have to look for that one.
Yeah, I can send you an invite to the group.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah,
I'll join.
it's
Those
a pretty
groups
good
are
group.
really helpful. They're really helpful.
Yeah, they are.
It was like that too is something that helps me out. When I just go to a group like that and you read someone else's posts and you can relate to it, and
Yeah,
it's making fun of you or calling you crazy or
yeah,
um,
that's disturbing. Like that was actually the reason because I was in that schizophrenia support group a while back, but the reason why I left is because I don't know. I kept on getting all this negativity every time I try to share like my faith in Christ.
yeah.
There's always one person that'll jump on me and start slandering me. I'm like, you know what? I don't need this group.
Yeah, a lot of that doesn't happen anymore. I notice in some of the groups, they're really cutting down on when people try to share their faith.
Oh, really?
Admins are seeing that people are really connecting and it's lifting up the group morale and it's lifting
Oh,
up people.
wow.
So anyone who gets on anymore, like it's rare that I'll say something spiritual that
Yeah,
resonate. It more resonates with them than causes hostility. You know.
yeah. So, what is it that you look forward to? Like, what keeps you waking up in the morning?
Um. So. Um. What just say? What keeps me? Most important thing. Um. Really, it's my children. I mean, just
Yeah,
by default, I look forward to like having a routine in place. You know,
yeah,
if I didn't have like that have if I didn't have life skills to perform and a routine to perform daily, there would be nothing to look forward to. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, just having those relationships with my kids and
Amen.
taking them to where they need to go and doing fun things for them and watching them develop and
That's
become
good.
good people. That's what I look forward to, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like I don't know. I feel like when you have something to focus on, like for you, your children, um, like it actually makes life a lot better. Like for those of
Yeah.
us that deal with schizophrenia, we need someone or something to look forward to. Because if not, we
Exactly.
don't have anything. We're gonna like it's gonna destroy us.
Yeah.
Like I feel bad whenever I see like someone on the street that's homeless and they're talking to themselves. Cause like when I look at them, I'm like, man, they have no one and nothing to look forward to. And that depresses me.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't. Yeah. That's a sad state to be in. I
Yeah,
mean, like I wish that I was like that 60-year-old woman at this point in my life where if I saw someone like that, I would source that. Like I wouldn't have any like insecurities or inhibitions. Like you're like in your golden years and you're like
yeah,
needs help. You know, like it would be great to like volunteer for some kind of organization where you can source people like that to help.
yeah,
The church isn't doing enough of it really, or I'm just not aware of it. And
yeah.
like
It's
I
true.
said, like I have a lot of insecurities right now, but you know, I could if the world still allows like Christianity in the next decade,
Yeah,
like I hope to like volunteer for some kind of organization where that would
yeah,
also give me hope as well as trying to
yeah.
source other people to
That's
Christian.
true. Like I understand what you mean because
Yeah.
there was a time in my life where I was volunteering at a pregnancy center, and
Mm,
that during that time was the most fulfilling time that I've had. Like it was one of my most fulfilling times was
Yeah.
during those 2 years I gave my time to a pregnancy center. Like
Mhm.
I loved working there. Like so, it's
Okay.
like I
You
would
still have
encourage you.
that
I
is
would encourage
awesome.
what?
That's awesome, like, you being a man, that was
Yeah,
probably so encouraging for them for those women to see
yeah,
someone, like, take notice of them and care for them and be gentle with them and, you
yeah.
know, encourage them, yeah, for real, and I'm
It's,
not gonna have kids for long, so I mean, in the home, your kids are gonna eventually leave, so, like,
yeah,
we have to start thinking about volunteering and how we're gonna get our next source of hope.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you could, yeah. Like I would encourage you, like in the next like couple of years or so, when you have, or when your kids are already adults, like looking
Yeah.
into finding like an organization you can help out. I mean, whether it's a pregnancy center, a homeless shelter, if you volunteer somewhere, you will feel like you will feel fulfilled.
And we have the skills, because we can recognize psychosis, we can recognize trauma, we
Exactly.
can recognize
Yeah.
this person needs this resource, this one. Yeah, we'll be real valuable. Is I feel like once we move into like our, I don't know, like once you're accredited with your peer support stuff, that's going to be great to see.
This
You're
is
going to do
great.
good stuff with that, David. I believe in you.
Yeah.
It's going to
Thank
be
you. I appreciate that. Yeah, like I thought about volunteering at a homeless, or not a homeless, a soup kitchen right around the corner from me, but like that
yes.
soup kitchen is very sketchy. So
I hear you.
I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I don't want to do this.
That too is like the vulnerability and the insecurity of crime in certain
Yeah,
areas that kind of detracts people from wanting to get involved too.
exactly, exactly. All right, so I have two more questions, but I want to put it out there to the viewers. If anybody has any questions that you would like to ask Jane, feel free to post your questions in the comments, and I'll read them out. All right, so the next question is. Well, actually, I have three more questions. Okay, so the next question is. Oh no, hold up. Yeah, what is the most important thing you want the body of Christ to know about schizoaffective disorder?
Um, that I guess that it's constantly being portrayed as a violent illness, like
Mm,
um, mental illness, and particularly in like horror movies, like you'll see it all
yeah,
over. Movie where there's an element of mental illness, it's always portrayed as a violent disorder, and there's
yeah,
violence involved and gore and like it's just really enrages me because we're being
yeah,
misrepresented all the time
yeah,
in Hollywood.
yeah,
It's such a split in how the diagnosis actually plays out. It
yeah,
actually humbles you and it teaches you empathy and it places you in a childlike trust of the people around you because
yeah,
you have to rely on people for counseling and
yeah,
medication. It's an intensive um illness. It's not.
yeah,
It's always portrayed so gruesomely and just so out of character. Like
yeah,
I've never known someone with schizophrenia to be violent
yeah.
that
It's
that
true. Like
that
it's
movie
true.
type violence.
It's true. I've
Yeah,
seen studies that say that people with schizophrenia or any mental illness we're more likely to be victims of crime than we are to be perpetrators of crime. And it's kind of
exactly.
sad that so many people don't understand that. And I do think it's like you said, it's because of the way we're portrayed by media. Because
Yeah,
anytime there's like a school shooting or something,
yeah.
people always want to say, oh, they
It's
have
got
mental
mental
illness.
illness. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, like it's
Um.
I'm constantly having to tell people that no, just because as people with mental illness, we're more likely to be victims than perpetrators. That's not to say that no one who ever commits a violent crime has mental illness, but
Right.
it's not as common as people like to think it is.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I don't know how to. I don't know how to end that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Association between violent criminals and and you know
Well, when
the
you were talking about that, I don't know if this guy. Like, have you seen the movie American Psycho?
yeah,
Yeah, I
Patrick
don't,
Bates.
yeah,
Yeah, that these people are more. Yeah, exactly. Like
yeah,
he had the antisocial personality, like
exactly.
just
Uh,
completely, yeah, into like the serial killers who, the
yeah,
people with the personality disorders are so much more vicious. Um, in business, like they these are the ones that own the businesses, the CEOs and all of
yeah,
these people. They're the ones that are the most scariest and violent in society anyway. Like
that's
that was a
true.
really good movie because it did I mean, it was extreme and it portrayed it in an extreme and a graphic sort of way, but you think
Yeah,
about it, like CEOs with like the narcissistic disorder and the antisocial where it's nobody around you. It's so like evil and stealth that no one can recognize it, and
yeah,
they're just getting away with it, and people are allowing them to get away with things like that too, even if they suspect them. Yeah,
yeah,
for real. Like,
yeah,
yeah, they portray some lonely guy with a gun who has mental illness, who's just
yeah,
well, I'm not trying to undermine that, but think of all of these cocaine-riddled CEOs who are destroying people's lives and companies because they're so greedy and they have
yeah,
personality disorders that are going untreated. Like,
yeah,
see that more portrayed in the media
yeah,
as like actual
exactly.
violence, like social aggression. That's devastating. That can lead people to suicide and job
Yeah,
loss, and you know,
that's true.
and that's caused by the cluster B personality disorders.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just
So
evil.
this is a twofold question. The first part is what medications are helping you now?
Medications now. I take an antipsychotic. I take a mood stabilizer. Oh, we go. Yeah, after like 7 attempts, I finally got an antipsychotic that
Yeah.
worked for me. It was a long road, and
I understand because it took me probably like the better part of a decade before I could find the right
exactly,
medication for me.
yeah. Just the weight gain or
Yeah.
the complete loss of executive function, and some of them,
Yeah.
like where I'm just like, I remember sitting there and I felt like one of them. I felt like I lived inside of like a cotton ball. Like I couldn't.
Oh
It was
wow.
like it was so destabilizing.
Yeah.
It was like being in a lucid dream almost. It was
Yeah.
my medic. It was a strong dose too at the time, but I would get up and I would like do the dishes and then be like, okay, I'll sit over here now for for like half an hour and stare at the wall, and then it was horrible. And
Yeah.
another one, I took Abilify after I had my pregnancy with my first son. I gained 30 pounds
Oh wow.
in like the matter of 2 months. It
Oh
was
wow.
ridiculous. I just like, yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway,
I was
antipsychotic, mood stabilizer. I take a PRN for panic and anxiety, and then I'm
okay.
prescribed medication for pre-diabetes. I'm not pre-diabetic, but the medications cause diabetic symptom,
Okay.
metabolism issues. So that's what I'm on right now.
Yeah, I was on Vilify probably like 6, 7 years ago. It didn't make me gain weight, but it kind of made my moods like flatline.
Oh yeah,
Like I
yeah.
like,
Some
I
of
don't-
them too. You take it, and it's like the world doesn't have color anymore. Like
yeah,
everything gray, and you're like, those. That's where it gets scary and worrisome because then you start to doubt what's the meaning of life. Like what
yeah, exactly, yeah,
in a state of suicidal ideation. Like
yeah,
if you're not vibing with that medication, yeah, you can.
yeah.
And then that's when faith in God would come into play.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. If it wasn't for faith in God, I'd probably be dead today.
I know,
But
yeah. I most likely would be too, David. I most
yeah.
likely would be too. But praise
Yeah.
God, we're sitting here and
Exactly.
we're
Praise
talking
God.
about him and glorifying him, and
Exactly.
we have a
Wait.
road to somewhere, not to
Yeah.
nowhere.
Exactly. Oh, the second part of this question. Where was it? Oh, what would you like to suggest to someone who says they do not like how their medication makes them feel?
Oh, yeah. I can empathize with it. I really can. Just because of like the symptoms involved, like the weight gain, and then for, for guys it's more like a sexual dysfunction sometimes it can cause. And
Yeah.
that's probably really hard in relationships, and takes some sensitivity and, some and but yeah, just feeling self-conscious for me for the weight gain, and then
Yeah.
feeling wiped out when your dose is too high. And I would say just keep sticking with it,
Yeah.
because it's a game changer. If you're not on your
Yeah.
medications, you
Yeah.
really could end up destroying your life. Like it can just destroy your life in half of a year if you just stop your
Yeah.
meds. I don't know. It's so scary.
Exactly. That's why I tell people, like, I got into these kind of conversations with people on Facebook who try to tell me they were healed of mental illness and they no longer take medication. I try to explain to them, if you truly have a mental illness, it's very dangerous for you to not go on, to not stay on your medication because your mind will get worse.
Oh yeah,
Uh, I like to think that maybe I'm getting through to some people, but
yeah.
like some people are just very stubborn and they're like, "Oh no, God healed me."
It almost, yeah. No, I would keep being sensitive to that, to people like
Yeah,
that, and just continue to advocate for medication. Uh,
yeah,
I do believe God does healings, maybe for
yeah,
like a minor depressive episode or an
yeah,
anxious episode. But if you truly have a mental health diagnosis, there's not going to be anything less than like it has to be some kind of angel coming out of the clouds, like sort of.
yeah,
Jesus is standing in front of like Lazarus's tomb, and he said, he's like, "You're healed," and anything
yeah.
less than that, I wouldn't believe. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. All right, so here's a question. Like this is one of my favorite questions to ask people. So in John chapter 9, you read about the man born blind, and the
okay,
disciples asked Jesus, "Was this man born blind because of his sin or his parents' sin?" And Jesus said, "Neither. He was born blind, but to display the glory of God." So, but based going off of that, how do you think schizoaffective disorder displays the glory of God?
in my weakness, he is strong.
Amen.
That's always very evident. In my weakness, he's strong, and
Yeah,
mental illness is a weakness. It's a disability. It's a diagnosis that you can't really. It's what do I want to say. It can be oh what I don't know, forget. But anyway, when I'm not in esteem, like when I'm feeling like, oh well, if I didn't have this illness, I could be doing something with credentials and be esteemed
yeah,
in my social circles. I could have a social circle where I have credentials and friends and
yeah,
a dating scene and all that. But in esteem with societal success, like Jesus Christ is my he God is my esteem. So
amen,
you can't you're either gonna glorify God with this illness or you're just not, and
amen.
your life is on a different trajectory.
Yeah,
But he's my success story. I take refuge in what he did on the cross for me daily.
amen,
And then even like the Beatitudes, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. Theirs is, or what's the, um, yeah, I read through the Beatitudes and think of the weaknesses that Christ describes, and it does remind me of people with mental illness and people who are
Mhm.
poverty stricken. And that was one of Jesus's like main sermons that everyone could
Mhm.
understand. And like, yeah, like, um, and then the story of Lazarus and the rich man, where it would glorify God for people to have empathy and turn around to Lazarus instead of walking over his nearly dead body,
Yeah.
and helping him out of his, giving him resources and helping him with his substance use disorder or
Yeah.
whatever. That's such a it's I keep thinking of that lesson in the Bible, the rich man and Lazarus, and I think it has to do with mental illness and
Yeah.
how it would glorify God if the church would wake up to um, sourcing these people, giving them the insurance that they need, the
Mm.
free mental health everyone should have free mental health insurance. And then if people have subsequent, um, what is it, co-occurring, mental illness and substance use disorders, there should
Yeah.
be room and board, free room and board for a year for people
Yeah.
to experience, stability, medication, therapy, life skills,
Exactly.
and
Yeah, there
then
definitely should be something like that. I agree. I
get
I feel
Lazarus
like
off the
I feel like
streets.
there's not enough. I feel like there's not enough mental health like places to help people because I don't know. I don't think there's enough. At least here in America.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I see all these different programs for like drug and alcohol, domestic violence, homeless. I don't really see too many places for mentally ill people.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
They just kind of put us in these like farm stalls for 2 weeks and like
Yeah.
walk around, and they feed us 3 meals a day. They give us
Yeah.
medication so we sleep, and then they send us home. And there's no like,
Exactly.
it's horrible. It's just horrible, horrible care.
Yeah. That's true. All right. So that was all my questions. Did you have any questions for me?
Um, yes. Like how that actually we're just talking about it. I was gonna ask you like how are the because I know you were hospitalized a couple months ago. How are
Yeah.
the hospitals lately? Can you use your phone in the hospitals? Can you ask for a pastor or chaplain to come pray for you? Like
Um.
things like
When
that.
I was when I was in the hospital, no, I couldn't keep my phone. Like they
Okay.
have like a pay phone on the wall. It's not like an
That's
actual
different
pay phone.
too.
Yeah, it's not
That's
actual pay phone. It's just like a phone on the wall, and you have to
In
call.
Europe, you see people in Europe get to keep their phones. That's so weird. I wonder.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I had one of my good friends is in Finland, and she kept her phone when she
Oh
was sick
wow.
the whole time. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I know Lauren from Living Well with Schizophrenia in Canada. She was in a hospital that let her keep her phone too.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand what the glitch here is in the United States then.
I don't either. I think they should, as long as you're not taking pictures of people.
Oh yeah, maybe
Like, I
that's
don't.
why.
Yeah, and as long as you're not taking pictures of people, you should be able to keep yourself. But it's the same way with the homeless shelters I've been in. The homeless
Okay.
shelters I've been in, before you went back to to the bed area, they'll make you give up your cell phone. Like,
It seems like a breach in safety.
yeah. But to
People
answer
really
your other question about if they let you call a pastor or chaplain in, I could I could add because they allow visitation, so my pastor could come and see. But the visitation hours out here in the mental hospital are so weird because they only give you 1 hour every day from like say 4 to 5, and that's it.
yeah.
So if like your loved one or your pastor, whoever, if they're working till like 5,
Yeah.
then they can't come visit you.
Can you
Like,
imagine a facility where you ask them, "Can I see a chaplain or pastor?" and they provide you with one? Like, could
there
you even
are
imagine?
There are
pastor,
some hospitals, mental hospitals that
or
will
like a
provide
peer
you.
support? Anyone like, can I have a peer that's
Yeah,
outside of the hospital who
there are
has?
some mental hospitals that if you ask for a chaplain, they'll send a chaplain to you. However, I don't know. I don't really trust the hospital chaplains. So,
Yeah, that's true. They're progressive. They're like,
yeah, exactly.
what would it? My another question: what would it look like for a hospital to treat us with more respect, more humanity, especially when leaving? Like, do you feel like the hospitals do a good job of treating us with respect and humanity? Are there any like
I
discrepancies in that?
honestly, I've never had any bad experiences in any of the mental hospitals I've been in.
Mhm.
I always felt like the nurses were very helpful, and like
Do you
I
think
never
it can
really
be improved upon at all? Like any improvements?
improved upon.
Especially like leaving too. Like when you leave, do you feel
I think they should like follow up on you like after you've been out
okay?
of the hospital for like a week or two. I think
Mhm.
somebody should call you up just like check in on you, see how you're doing, and like maybe
Mhm.
they could have the caseworker from the hospital make give you a call just to
Yeah.
say, hey, how are you feeling? You still taking your medication and like a checkup. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. All right, so that concludes this interview. Thank you, Jane, again for joining. And yeah, I appreciate it. It'll take a lot of courage to come on here and share your story. Like, I want to say thank you to the viewers who watched this interview. And if you like this interview, please leave a like, share this video with those that you want, those people that you feel like needs to hear this interview. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because it really helps the channel out. And if you've been blessed by the Christ Center Mental Health Ministry, please consider supporting the ministry either through Patreon, Venmo, or Cash App for $5 pledges or more on Patreon, or for a one-time donation of $10 or more on Cash App or Venmo. I'll send you a few copies of my books as a token of my gratification. All right. Thank you again, Jane, for coming on here. I
Thanks,
appreciate
David.
it.
I
Yeah.
appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome. All right. Have a good night. God bless you all and stay strong in the Lord.
Thank you.